Review code provided by Ubisoft. I'm Jared.
I'm Marcus.
Level with us. Hello and welcome to Level With Us, the show where we have a cozy video game discussion every week. We usually like to spotlight indie titles, but this week we're going to be talking about Mario+Rabbids Sparks of Hope, which was provided to us by Ubisoft, so a big thank you to them. And specifically, I want to talk about why this game kind of fills the Paper Mario-shaped hole in my heart that has been lacking recently. But maybe not in the way you expect. But we'll get into that in a moment. First of all, let's talk general impressions so far.
So I didn't play the first one, unlike you. So a lot of, I think, my impressions would be my impressions of the first game as well. In short, way fun. I've really enjoyed it so far. It's fun to kind of have a light tactics game. There are some tactics games that can really, I don't want to say burden you with their mechanics, but there's a lot of complex systems going into things. So it's kind of cool here that you have, you know, a small party and they each have a very limited range of what they can do. I also am just a big fan of a tactics game that isn't on a visual grid. You can walk freely and, you know, you still want to find cover and stuff like that, but it's pretty fun and it feels more free-flowing to have it not just be on a bunch of squares.
And that's something new that's specific to this sequel, because the first game was on a grid. You did choose where to move your characters on, and it had the same movement options where you could team jump off of each other and dash into enemies. But once you moved, that was your movement for the turn. In this game, in addition to getting rid of the grid, you can move as much as you want throughout your turn until you attack. And it kind of leads to some crazy broken combos where you can move a character, move another character next to them to team jump off, and then move the original character back to where they were originally, etc. It feels very freeing, and it makes me never want to play Fire Emblem again. I know that's a completely different game, but
how rude.
It makes me never want to play on a grid again when it comes to tactical RPGs, I think.
One of my favorite interactions in this game is when you have one set up an ability that, like, shoots at the next enemy that moves, and then you use another to, like, dash into someone, and then since they technically moved, it gives another person a chance to shoot them, and it's very satisfying to, you know, do team combos and stuff like that.
For sure. Another thing that this sequel really improves upon the original by is kind of getting rid of a few of the restrictions the original game had. In the original game, you had to include Mario on your team, and you had to include a Rabbid on your team. But now you just mix and match whatever you want. You have lots of characters available right from the beginning, and you can experiment with all of them. You can have all Rabbids, you can have all Mario characters. It's completely up to you, which is great. So tell me what your favorite team comp has been so far.
I was going to ask you what your favorite character was as well, but
yeah.
Most recently I did Rabbid, Peach, and Luigi. I don't necessarily think that that's like a great team combo, but that's like what I've been playing the last couple of battles. But I think most of them have, you know, powers or abilities that make them feel like a good part of the team. How about you?
I mostly did Rabbid, Mario, and Edge.
Nice.
Which was kind of a challenge because Edge and Rabbid Mario don't have much range, so Mario's the only one who has like a decent amount of range with his attacks. So that was kind of fun, but I've kind of been shifting away from that and doing Rabbid Rosalina a lot more. She deals tons and tons of damage if you upgrade her skill tree enough, because she's kind of like, I don't remember if it was Yoshi or Rabbid Yoshi in the last game, but where it's like a pellet gun that hits one enemy multiple times. And if you upgrade her to include just maximum chance of critical hits, then every single hit does a ton of damage. So I've been liking her a lot, so I've kind of been replacing Edge, and I might replace Mario. I'm not sure. I like to play around too, and that's what's nice, is the game doesn't really punish you. There are specific missions where you do have to play certain characters, but yeah, it's so fun, and it makes me excited for potential repeat playthroughs in the future, and I'll probably choose different characters than I did this playthrough.
Gotcha.
Yeah, any other like standout things, anything that you've really enjoyed about this game?
Not so much enjoyed, but something that I think is interesting is that this is, in addition to a tactics game, kind of a full-blown RPG in a lot of ways. Like there's an overworld, there are characters you interact with, there are puzzles to solve, which is really interesting. I think it's because we've recently played several indie games that really just like focus on one idea. Roguelikes, I was thinking of Into the Breach. It's just the gameplay. It doesn't, it sort of has story, but it's all about the tactics gameplay. This one, there's a lot of cutscenes, a lot of in-between stuff in the overworld if you choose to interact with it. So that was just something kind of interesting to me that I didn't expect, and I think it was probably in the first game, but Ubisoft is going to, have it be a full game experience, not just the one thing.
Sure. Yeah, I guess I kind of forgot about that. The overworld is also completely different. The first game, it was kind of novel in that every map you played on was diegetic to the world, if that makes sense. So basically you're walking through these maps that you're also playing the levels on, but then you just keep going. It's a huge, long, linear string of one pathway that there's not really exploration. You just go from puzzle to battle to puzzle to battle. This game, yeah, it's big open areas to explore. It feels more like an adventure. Like you said, there's characters to interact with. I'm a few worlds into the game. There's been no puzzles that have really tested my mental capacity. I would like it.
But one time you had to push a box onto a button.
Oh, I've never seen that in a video game. I don't know. I haven't found any that have really tested me too much, but I still like them. I like that there's something different to do between battle encounters. There's also random encounters, or not random, but there are enemies just kind of sitting out in the open that you can go initiate battles with.
To grind for XP, one would assume?
Yeah, there's also like side missions where you have to take out a certain number of them. But yeah, I'm glad you brought this up, that it's an RPG, because going back to my original thought about Paper Mario, this is not really the same genre of that game, but it is kind of everything I want out of a Mario RPG. It has interesting characters, it has kind of a fun story, it has lots of exploration, but also a really fun, in-depth combat system that is simple to understand. That's what I miss the most. When I try other turn-based RPG games, I get really bogged down by all the systems and all the numbers and all the stats, and it's kind of boring and dry to me. But what Mario adds to RPGs is accessibility, and he adds simplicity and fun. And I think this game has that. Am I making sense here, Marcus? Am I crazy?
Yeah. No, I think you're right. You and I have talked before about how Paper Mario, or games that kind of follow in its tradition like Bug Fables, the damage that you're doing is in single digits rather than, like 5% more damage on a 90% attack and all this kind of stuff. It not necessarily simplifies, but makes it more accessible, makes it easier to read at a glance. So I think that this definitely has that.
Right. I don't know. I wonder if I played XCOM, if I would like it. Like, I hope that I would, but when I've played this game where you have so much maneuverability and you have so much freedom in how you do your actions, and it's nice and simple and in a toy-like package, I don't know if I really could get into a different thing, But yeah, I haven't had a Paper Mario game that I truly enjoyed in a long time, so this is a lovely breath of fresh air. So thank you, Davide Soliani, for bringing this to us. Appreciate it. And with that, let's get into star pieces. This is the part of the show where we highlight a cool little detail or something we generally liked about the game. And for me, it's so small, but sometimes that's the best star pieces. I love Rabbid Rosalina's animations. I don't know if you've gotten far enough to see.
I have not, unfortunately.
Okay. But you've seen her in the trailers, kind of, she has this very don't care attitude. She's like, do we have to fight? Kind of thing. How else do I describe that?
Devil may care.
Devil may care personality. And when you're walking around as her, it's so funny. She's in this cute little dress and her arms are just kind of flailing behind her as she runs. But specifically, the animation I love is the vaulting animation. If there's partial cover, you can jump over it with a character.
Right.
And for her, she kind of just like gets up onto it and is just laying on it, and then rolls over and then falls off. It's like she's in bed and like, 5 more minutes, and then just slowly kind of rolls over.
That's a lot of character in a single animation. I really like that.
I think the characters in general are very well done. I couldn't care less for Rabbid Mario in the last game. Like, he didn't really stand out to me. But in this game, he's so funny. And part of the reason for that is the Rabbids are now voiced, which was really weird at first for me, but they've really grown on me. Rabbid Mario has this kind of Mario imitator, Brooklyn sort of Italian accent. Hey, mamma mia! Hey, I'm so strong.
Take it easy.
Hey, take it easy. I love him.
Yeah. Well, I'll tack right onto that since we have wandered into my star piece, which was the voice acting in general. It's kind of interesting because there are eclectic approaches to voice acting within this game, where there are some characters that are fully voiced. You have 2 little fairy type Navi characters following you around. Not sure why there are 2, but you have 2 of them.
Bwaaah and Genie.
Yeah, they're fully voiced, always. The Rabbids, they have single voiced lines through a lot of their actions and stuff like that. And side note, adding on to yours, I think it's fun that they're not just like imitations of their Mario counterparts.
Oh yeah,
They also have their own thing going. Like you already mentioned Rabbid Mario. Rabbid Luigi is like a breakdancer for some reason. Rabbid Peach is an influencer.
Yes.
And I'm sure it gets old eventually, but I think it's actually very funny when she's like, #healing journey, when you like heal
as the healer,
your other people.
Yeah, I love that. I got a good chuckle out of that too.
Yeah, so that kind of cracks me up. So they have, really fun voices. And then also characters in the overworld, they'll like voice single words from a full line of dialogue. And I feel like it's kind of a cool, compromise. To have a person where the first line that they say you have voiced, then you know what their voice is, and then you can read through it at your own pace and kind of know the vibe of the character. So I thought that was cool. This isn't a part of the star piece, but I should mention the Mario characters. I think you and I are both pretty sure that they are like libraries, sound effect libraries from previous Mario games.
Yeah, I felt that way about the last game too. I think they are I don't think they recorded any new lines. I'm pretty sure every line I've heard by the Mario characters is something I've heard in another game before.
Well, yeah, the reason I mentioned it is because I said it's kind of an eclectic approach, and that's why, because you have like 3 to 4 different approaches to voice acting all happening in the same game. But I think it, for the most part, works really well.
Right. And for every star piece, there's also a quick jab.
And jab.
This is where we talk about something we didn't like so much about the game, but not for very long. Why don't you start us off, Marcus?
Sure. So I don't want to look like an idiot, so I better make sure that this isn't later in the game that I don't know about. For a game that's using characters known for their ability to jump, it'd be kind of nice to be able to jump in the overworld. Can you jump in the overworld later?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Not because it's like a necessity or like it's any big deal. This is just a quick jab. But when you're Mario and you're just walking everywhere, you're like, why am I not triple jumping and hopping and skipping?
Well, it's an RPG, but you're right. Like even Paper Mario,
you're trying to justify away my point.
You're right. I could see the third game, because this is now a series and not just one weird spin-off. I could see the third game having jumping and platforming in combat and in the overworld. Like, I think that's the next logical step if they want to keep innovating. Because I was surprised how much this game, it still feels, like the original, but it's just so different in so many ways. They really wanted to innovate as much as they could with what they had. I bet they could add that later on. But yeah, it would be nice to be able to jump.
Yeah, it's not that I'm like missing platforming. It's just that the overworld feels a little sterile, being characters that usually can interact pretty freely with the world, and you're just like walking from place to place, or running from place to place.
Yeah, well, my quick jab is actually something that was in the old game that isn't in this game, and that's the elemental powers. Like, there are different damage types in this game, and every enemy has a weakness and a resistance. But the thing is, in the old game, in the first game, there was honey and ink and these really, and bounce and push. which are like status effects I've never heard of in a video game before. And they make logical sense. Like honey, you're stuck in place. You can't move. And ink, you can't attack because you can't see. The status effects in this game still pull off some of the same effects. I think frost freezes them in place now. And I don't know. Most of what was in the old game, like burning does the exact same thing. But I just miss the uniqueness of like honey type attacks and ink type attacks. It's just very different and very Mario to me. So I kind of wish they had kept that.
You like the goofy, the goofy thing that only a Mario and Rabbids game can really do.
Exactly. Well, it's time for our next segment. Who's the fake fan?
Fake fan.
This is the part of the show where Marcus and I try and stump each other with nerdy trivia questions to see who's the biggest nerd and who's the fake fan.
The fakest of fans.
That's right. My fake fan question relates to the music of the game. And this game is interesting in that it has 3 composers, Grant Kirkhope, Yoko Shimomura, and Gareth Coker. All legendary reputations in video games. Grant Kirkhope is the one who did Banjo-Kazooie, Ukulele, and he did the last game as well. Yoko Shimomura is the composer for Kingdom Hearts.
Interesting.
And she also worked on some of the Mario and Luigi games, which are Mario RPGs, which is really cool. And then Gareth Coker is one of my favorite composers, and he worked on Ori and the Blind Forest, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. He did Halo Infinite recently, and a bunch of other really cool, I think Minecraft as well. So big names.
That's a really interesting mix. And 3 of them, too. That's really fascinating.
Right.
Because a lot of times video game soundtracks kind of are auteurish, you know? Like, it's one person doing their vibe.
Which makes it so surprising that the music in this game feels so cohesive, considering it's coming from 3 different sources. And I watched a little mini documentary about this on YouTube, but it's really cool. I think, I could be wrong, I think they assigned each planet of the game to 2 composers. And so they had them working in tandem, making their own pieces, but working together and listening to each other's to kind of bring that cohesion in. So even though they're 3 different composers with 3 distinct styles, you can still kind of pick out which composer did which track. So for Fake Fan, we are going to do Name That Tune. Are you ready?
No, but let's do it.
Well, here's the thing. I have a cheat sheet here that will help you know what to look for as you're listening. Would you like that?
Yeah. You've thought of everything.
Okay, great. So I'll kind of describe the tenets of each composer's musical style. And so it'll be things you can look for as you listen. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm.
So Grant Kirkhope, he is all about playful tunes. He, by his own admission, he said, I want to make music that gets stuck in your head. So it has very fun, playful, noodly tunes. He likes a good melody, a good tune that you can whistle after. Yoko Shimomura, she is very classically trained. She uses the full orchestra. A lot of her tracks are very epic, lots of epicness. And then Gareth Coker is arguably the most cinematic of the 3. When I listen to his music, it seems like something you could hear in an animated movie. He likes his motifs, and he likes telling a story and focusing on the emotion of a piece. Is that good? Is that a good little list?
Yeah, I'll give it a try. Sounds fun.
All right. Gonna play a few tracks for you. Here is the first one.
Okay. It's not playful enough for this to be an easy pick for Grant Kirkhope, so I'm thinking it's either Shimomura or Coker. It's very adventurous. And I wish I was more familiar with the Kingdom Hearts soundtrack. I'm going to say it's Shimomura.
That is correct.
Yes.
This is the song
This
that
is
plays
a bop,
in the
too.
tutorial.
What? That's
And like
pretty
all the
epic
comments,
for a tutorial.
I looked at the video when I was looking up the music. All the comments on the video of this say, "Man, Shimomura did not need to go this hard on the tutorial level." But for me, like, as someone who has played the whole Kingdom Hearts franchise, a lot of these tracks do sound like Kingdom Hearts to me. I'm like, oh yeah, this is totally like that. But good job. All right, here's the next one.
All right, playful. I can see this being in a 3D platformer. So with the information you gave me, I'm gonna say Grant Kirkhope.
That is correct.
Yes.
A little easier to tell.
Little
but
bouncy bassoon.
yeah, he loves his bassoon. You know,
Who doesn't, really?
Last week we talked about how Trifox kind of sounds, the music kind of sounds like Banjo-Kazooie, and I played a track during that from Banjo-Kazooie, and it sounds really similar to this one. So yeah, you can tell that's a little bit of an easier one. But yeah, that is the theme for the character Augie in the first world.
Ah, gotcha.
All right, here's the next one.
Okay, so there are two things to consider here. One, it reminds me of kind of the cinematic sound of the Ori soundtracks I've heard before. But two is, would Jared do one from each composer in a row, or would he throw in a repeat? But I think I'll stick to my gut and say that this kind of has more of that, like, narrative arc sound to it, so I'm going to say Gareth Coker.
That is incorrect. This is actually Grant Kirkhope. And I think even though it is bigger and more epic than the last track I played, you can kind of tell just with the just kind of the noodling woodwinds. Like, that's kind of something specific to Grant Kirkhope.
Okay, all right. You know what this is reminding me of? This is reminding me of the listening test I had to take in Music History 202.
Oh yeah, you're like,
where we're like,
it sounds like all classical music.
Yeah, we're going to play songs for you that we have not played for you before in class. You need to know what the composers sound like. And then you, like, fail it, and they're like, haha, no, he was imitating the sound of Chopin. It wasn't Chopin, you idiot.
Right.
No, but that's fair. How many more of these you got?
Just a couple left, so here's the next one.
Okay, a lot's going into this one. I wish I could have studied up for this test.
Hey, you didn't know, but at least I gave you a cheat sheet.
No. Hey, yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's interesting because it's orchestral, it's whimsical. I could imagine the da being like a telltale sign that it's Kirkhope again, but I can also see, like, oh, marimba or xylophone. Shimomura uses that all the time in Kingdom Hearts. Or maybe the fact that there was a strong melody line in there means that it's Gareth Coker. Let me dial back in. Let me listen again. So fun. I'm gonna say Shimomura.
Correct.
Yes!
Another one that, to me, really sounds like Kingdom Hearts. Like, there's but anyway, this is very full, very orchestrated, lots of strings, very much her style.
Nice.
But good job.
Thank you.
Okay, here's the next one.
Does a Mario and Rabbids soundtrack have any reason to be this epic and awesome?
It seriously is, like, gone its way into my top 10 soundtracks. I don't know how it did it.
Wow.
So good.
I love this. It's very nice. I'm going to guess Gareth Coker.
Yes, well done.
Hooray.
This is one of my favorite tracks in the game. It's one of the fight songs on the Terra Flora planet. The title on the track I pulled from says Fight Songs from Flower Planet. But yeah, man, Gareth Coker found his way into my heart once again. And that's everything. So, well done, 4 out of 5, not bad at all.
Thank you. That was awesome. That was a great trivia question.
You did struggle a little bit on a couple of them, and to me that more speaks less to your musical discernment abilities and more to just how good they did at making it sound like it's coming from the same game, right? They all use orchestras and they all feed off each other, and you even use some of the same motifs that the other one created. Right. But yeah, check out the documentary if you get a minute. I'll include a link in the description. It's awesome. Very good. Very cool. Yeah,
speaking from experience, I have worked on a soundtrack where I co-composed with 2 other people, actually. And yeah, no, it was a really interesting dynamic. And I know if it's successful, it takes work. So that's very cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Well, Jared, since you spent so much time listening to music, my question should be a breeze for you. Because clearly you did play it with the volume on. So there's one sound effect in here that sounds a little bit like Breath of the Wild. It's a little piano jingle.
Okay.
And I'm realizing now that this is maybe not a great type of question, but it's a jingle that plays every time you have like a new quest available.
Okay.
It's a little piano jingle. I was just wondering if you can try to make the sound with your mouth as close as you can, and then you can play it and see how close you actually were.
So you're not going to play anything for me first?
No. I was going to try to like compare it to other Breath of the Wild piano clips and like have you try to figure out which one it is, but I didn't do that. So now all I have is a clip of audio and no question. So
the new quest sound.
Yeah.
All right, hang on a second. Let me go to my mind palace. I'm trying to dig this up. Hang on. Ba-do-ba.
Okay.
That's the best I got.
All right.
Ba-do-ba.
Okay.
I have a piano next to me. I should just try and play it.
Go ahead. You can play it.
Ah, yes.
Do you recognize that sound? Okay.
Yes. Ba-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, I know. It wasn't a good question.
It's fun. It's fun.
But do you agree with me that it sounds kind of Zelda-ish?
Yeah, a little bit, for sure. I mean, Breath of the Wild used the piano a lot for its solved puzzle jingles and things like that. It's not a stretch to say this sounds very similar. So, good job. I'm a fake fan.
It's not like we labeled this segment over a derogatory name that we give the loser, so there's no stakes.
It's so funny, though. But let's not end on a sour note. I would be remiss if we didn't do an episode about Rabbids without going into rabbit holes.
Rabbit holes.
Finally, we have a reason for that sound effect to be in here.
Nice.
This is the open mic segment of our show where we get to talk about whatever we want. And this week, I'm going to use that time to do our very first game giveaway.
That's so exciting. Can I get it?
Yes, if you participate, but let me tell you how.
Oh my gosh.
So, Marcus and I are going to start giving away indie games. We are going to purchase an indie game for whatever console you prefer it on. And this week, we are going to give away a copy of A Short Hike, a game that is near and dear to both of our hearts. But don't worry, if you already own that game, we will still give you credit so you can buy a different indie game on another console. So let me tell you how you can participate. Next time, believe it or not, is our 50th episode. Woohoo! And we will announce the winner on the 50th episode. So the way you can enter is by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, or you can tweet at LVL with us, and in either of those places, tell us what you like about our show. It can be a star piece, if you will, of something that you really like. It could be your favorite segment that we do. Or if you really want, you can show some constructive criticism, and that will still count as an entry. And so everyone who does that, we will take your name, we will randomly select one, and then we will announce it in our next episode. And if you're not able to tweet us or leave an Apple review, you can send us an email at levelwithuspodcast@gmail.com, and that still works too. But we'd probably prefer one of the first two because we want more people to know about the show. And this is kind of also our way of thanking you, the listeners, who have been with us so far.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very grateful. And hey, chances are, if you're listening to these words right now, chances are you're going to win a game in the next few months, because this is going to be a recurring thing, you said, Jared, right?
Yes, it won't be like every episode, but
Okay, all right.
We will be doing this more often because I want to give back. We'll post on Twitter when our next episode will be. If we can, we'll do it next week. If not, it might be in a couple weeks because we're about to travel internationally, both of us. So, yeah, get your thoughts in. Tell us what you like about the show, what you wish we would do more often, maybe. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
We look forward to giving you free games.
So, until then, I'm Jared.
I'm Marcus.
And we'll level with you next time.